What's up, guys? Welcome back to another video on my channel. My name is Josh Fan of ShowMeFootball.com, and today I wanted to go over the possibility of Chiefs cornerback DeAndre Baker getting his first start this Sunday against the Los Angeles Chargers. So Andy Reid spoke to the media today after Friday practice and said that Charvarius Ward was one of two players that were getting treated for an injury after practice. One of them was Frank Clark. He hurt his other hamstring now. Big surprise, right? Frank Clark, you guys know how that goes. And then Charvarius Ward, he is dealing with a quad strain, and if it's severe enough to keep him out of Sunday's game, since we're only 2 days away, I think that's a scenario where Charvarius Ward is inactive and DeAndre Baker potentially gets his first start. I would actually be very excited by this because I want to see what DeAndre Baker is capable of. We've seen flashes. We saw him play in preseason, and he played pretty well, but he hasn't been active for any of the regular season games so far through a couple weeks. And really, not that I am happy about Ward being hurt, since he can be a capable cornerback at times. You guys know how I feel about Charvarius Ward. Quite frankly, I think he hit his ceiling a long time ago, and he gets exposed a lot. Sometimes he'll play well, sometimes, and when he's not playing well, you'll notice it. So far this year, Ward is allowing a 111.6 passer rating when targeted, and is allowing 21.5 yards per catch to the competition. So I kind of feel like Charvarius Ward's injury is a blessing in disguise. And when I did my interview with Sterling Holmes yesterday of ESPN Kansas City, he pushed back on me a little bit when I said I thought we'd seen enough of Ward and I would really like to see Baker, and he kind of scolded me for criticizing Charvarius Ward, said, he's kind of a solid cornerback that, Chiefs fans kind of take him for granted. And he also mentioned the fact that Charvarius Ward doesn't get a lot of penalties, and when Chiefs fans complained a lot about Bashaud Breeland's penalties. And I'm sorry, I had to go and research this because I could have swore Charvarius Ward was awful with penalties last year. And sure enough, Charvarius Ward was right behind Bashaud Breeland with penalties. He had 9, Bashaud Breeland had 10. Ward was actually in the top 10 in cornerback penalties. So there you go. Charvarius Ward actually allowed 106 yards just in penalty yards last year. My guy Kent Swanson over at KC Sports Network said it best on Twitter. Charvarius Ward really hasn't been great for the last 3 seasons, but a lot of people cling on to a couple good games in 2019, and he's a good story UDFA, so everyone gives off this impression that Charvarius Ward is this really good cornerback, and really, he's average to below average a lot of the time. But if there's one thing I will say about Charvarius Ward, is he's physical, he'll tackle, and when you allow him to go up and get in a receiver's face and press them at the line of scrimmage, he can do fairly well. But the problem is the Chiefs have been asking him to play more and more zone. He's not comfortable with that. He struggles. You saw it in the Ravens game. He had a miscue where Marquise Brown on one of Lamar Jackson's passing touchdowns was wide open. There was no defender 10 yards, near him. Charvarius Ward was responsible for that because as he started running, he second-guessed himself and stopped, and then Marquise Brown was wide open. And I've noticed Charvarius Ward give up a ton of big plays over the past few years. There's just certain matchups where he just gets beat like a drum, one of which being Henry Ruggs and the Raiders last year in that first game. They actually had to bench Charvarius Ward because of how bad he was, if you guys remember. Because Charvarius Ward also does not have the long speed to keep up with a guy like Ruggs. But I'm done bashing Charvarius Ward. I don't want to make this video all about that. This is about DeAndre Baker having an opportunity this weekend. I will say DeAndre Baker is no physical specimen. He's not what you would call an elite athlete. He doesn't have good long speed. He doesn't have ideal size for Steve Spagnuolo's scheme. He's actually closer in size to Rashad Fenton than Charvarius Ward. So what makes the option of DeAndre Baker so appealing then? That would be Baker's feel for the game and his overall technique. First of all, Baker has very good footwork. He can also press very well. For a guy that's only about 5'11", 190 pounds, like, he fights with receivers that have 20, 30 pounds on him. DeAndre Baker is very aggressive, and even though he, like Charvarius Ward, isn't this superior athlete, he makes up for it with his instincts and his feel for the game. And something I also noticed watching a lot of his games that I really admire is his ball skills and his ability to break up the pass after it looks like the catch was already made. As opposed to Charvarius Ward, who, he seems to be in the right place a lot, but the receiver will just always make a great catch over Charvarius Ward. I believe DeAndre Baker has the ball skills to be able to knock a lot of those out or break those up before they even get into the receiver's hands. Even though he struggled at times with the New York Giants as a rookie, he still had 8 passes defended in that year. Also showed to be a willing tackler with 61 combined tackles. And although it was a very, very small sample size in Week 17, a game that ultimately didn't matter, DeAndre Baker actually performed very well in the last game of the season for the regular season for the Kansas City Chiefs in 2020. In just 18% of the defensive snaps in that game. And, let's remember, though, the Chargers still had a lot of starters in this game. So, there's a little bit to take away from this Week 17 game of 2020. It was the game where DeAndre Baker ended up getting hurt. But before he got hurt, though, he had 4 solo tackles, a tackle for a loss, a pass defended, and a sack. He was all over the place. Furthermore, he actually showed out in preseason as well this past preseason against the 49ers. This tweet's from PFF Eric from August when the Chiefs faced the 49ers in preseason. DeAndre Baker was targeted 6 times, and he did not allow a pass on every single target. DeAndre Baker is just a very technically sound player. There's a reason this guy was the winner of the Jim Thorpe Award coming out of college and was the first cornerback taken in the 2019 draft. Let's not forget, the only reason the Chiefs have this guy is because of a legal mix-up. When he was on the Giants, they released him. He ended up being exonerated, and that's why he got to the situation he's in. And the reason he hasn't played so far is because, of course, that broken leg that he had, the broken femur at the end of 2020. So it's just been an unfortunate chain of events for DeAndre Baker. But the talent, the potential, you look at some of his film, there's things that you like from DeAndre Baker, and I would not be surprised at all if this is his first active game this Sunday, and I'm very interested to see how the Chiefs would use him, but I have confidence that if you put him on the outside on one of the Chargers, 1 or 2 best receivers, that he can pair well with L'Jarius Sneed out there and help to take away some of the Los Angeles Chargers weapons, and this is also a Los Angeles Chargers team that DeAndre Baker faced in his first game of action with the Chiefs last year, too. There might be some struggle at first. There might be a little of DeAndre Baker getting acclimated. But I think swapping out Charvarius Ward for DeAndre Baker this game would be a pleasant change. It would be a welcomed change. It would be trying something new. And then if DeAndre Baker shows you things that you like, well, then you can let those two battle it out going forward. But overall, I feel like it's finally time that we see what DeAndre Baker can do. All that being said, though, make sure you guys like, share, and subscribe so more Chiefs fans can find this. And let me know in the comments, do you guys think DeAndre Baker will get his first start for the Kansas City Chiefs in 2021 this Sunday? And do you think he'll play well? Let me know. And if you agree or disagree with anything in particular, let me know that too. Would love to have a discussion. But also, make sure you go check out my work on showmefootball.com and kckingdom.com. I'll see y'all later.